Hey guys, welcome back. This is Dan Collins, Chaos Incorporated. Thanks for checking out my channel again. This video, we're going to be talking about the Battle of Ukraine, Phase 3, and my predictions for not only Phase 3, but Phase 4. I'll let you know what I think what's going on. I've been obsessed with the war since it started, February 24th of this year. Who would have thought we'd have seen a war, a good old-fashioned European land war? The world's largest country is attacking Europe's largest country. The front is now 1,000 kilometers long. It's basically an incredible and very sad situation we have in the war. How it escalates from here, I'll do some other videos on, but today I'm just going to be focusing on the exact situation within the Ukrainian borders. I was kind of one of the first people, I think, to predict on Twitter that an invasion would happen. Because I've just been following it since 2014, in the Maidan coup, which was Western backed. It's admitted that the State Department was involved. But when Putin gave the ultimatum to NATO that you have to withdraw the 1997 lines or we will use military and a technical solution, that set off the red flag to me. That basically told me that this is going to go down because weak countries don't issue ultimatums that they can't back up, and Putin backed it up. And to everyone's surprise, including President Zelensky, 3 days before the invasion happens, he's at the Bavarian Munich Security Conference, joking, making fun of people who thought there was going to be an invasion. In fact, I remember the joke explicitly. He said, "Okay, tell me when the invasion is going to happen so I can arrange my lunch around that time." I mean, just kind of bizarre stuff. So, invasion happened. We saw kind of a phase 1. I think the whole made-up scenario Russia was planning to take Ukraine in 3 days is nonsense. You know, they had all their troops outside the border there lined up for a month or more, and they didn't bring in half of their forces until 6 weeks after the invasion actually started. You saw them do a shaping maneuver around Kiev, and everyone was questioning it. Now, Russia won't go in. They don't have enough troops on the border. You're never going to take a country of 40 million with only 500,000 troops on the border. And that's true. So back to my prediction. I kind of predicted the invasion would happen, but as it got closer, you saw them building pontoon brigades were practicing and field hospitals set up, 500,000 troops I mentioned around the border. You kind of know this was going to go down, and here we are today. So phase 1, which is what the Russians call it, they did a shaping maneuver around Kiev. Most of those were conscripts. We all remember the line, the 40-kilometer long line of Russian trucks just parked there. A lot of people were speculating, oh, they forgot to bring gas. I highly doubt that. The Russians are a lot more professional than that. It's kind of nonsense. But it did show the Ukrainians didn't have an air force. They didn't take them out. They're sitting there parked on the highway for weeks. Were not taken out. But what they were doing is we're keeping the Ukrainian troops positioned in Kiev to protect the capital. Now, there may have been a thought process within Putin's head that if he did an all-out invasion and surrounded Kiev, maybe Zelensky would flee, maybe the government would collapse. That's a possibility. Didn't happen. To his credit, he stayed. And the Russians continued to go through the south and out from Crimea and out through Belgorod into the north. They surrounded Kharkov but didn't take it. Very smart. The Russians are staying out of the cities. The cities are going to be bloodbaths. I have friends in Kiev sitting there telling me they're waiting out on their balcony and they've got 40 Molotov cocktails on the balcony ready to go. And that's why they didn't go into Kiev. That's why they didn't go into Kharkiv, the second largest city. But they did take Mariupol. It was bloody. But where we are now is we're entering the end of phase 2. Phase 2 is obviously taking the Donbass. Intel reports have leaked this week the Ukrainians, and you very rarely hear about it, but basically the casualties in Ukraine. The leaked numbers are they have lost 50,000 men and 60,000 are missing in action. I mean, it's just horrible. When the real numbers come out, I think everyone's going to be shocked. And the Russians have probably lost 10,000, another 10 or 20,000 wounded. But if you look at the situation, the way the Phase 2 Donbass war has unfolded, it's basically the Ukrainians don't have an air force, they don't have artillery, and this has become a battle, it's become a war of artillery. And they're just sitting there in man units with javelins, and they're just getting shelled. Also, those intelligence reports leaked. The Ukrainians are outmanned 40-1 in terms of ammo, in terms of weaponry. And this has all been behind the big push for NATO to get some of these weapons into the field. And I think they will start to show up, but it's going to be mainly around Phase 3. I think Phase 2 is so close to being done that that it's not going to have time to make a significant impact. And it's questionable. We'll see what happens in Phase 3, which I'm about to give you a prediction on. So we have the, as we look today, Russia's controlling a third of the country, 25% to a third of the country. Crimea, 2 out of the 3 ports, Crimea, Mariupol, the last one left is Odessa. And that brings us, really to Phase 3. So Phase 3 will be Odessa. Odessa, from the people I talked to, is a Russian city. It's as Russian as Crimea. I don't think Putin's going to leave it. I don't think he's going to attack from the ocean, though, because they have Harpoon missiles. You see the Ukrainians did sink the Moskva. I think we're going to start now to see the war speed up a bit. Putin's going to finish off Donbass and Lugansk. He's going to come through Nikolaev and come from the north down and surround Odessa. Probably won't go into the city. He's probably just going to cut it off. It's going to be cut off from the ocean and the Black Sea, and it's going to be cut off from the north. And from there, he can wait it out. That's going to create the land bridge. So the land bridge, I don't have a map here to show you, but the land bridge is going to come all the way across the south coast to Transnistria, where you have the 4,000 Russian troops. What happens then, we don't know. This is a Moldovan territory. They're not part of NATO, but this brings up a whole range of other escalatory issues, which we'll leave for later. But once that land bridge is created, then we're going to be looking at a Phase 4. That's where it's really going to be interesting. We really don't know what will happen from there. I think my overall assumption is that Putin wants the Russian-speaking areas. That's what this is all about. And you've seen it from the beginning. He's not carpet bombing cities. He's not trying to level places. Yes, some buildings get hit, but a lot of times Ukrainians have defenders in there in those buildings. He wants the Russian speakers back in the fold of the greater Russian Empire and not leave them under the rule of the Ukrainians. And at the end of the day, this is what this war is all about, is to keep Ukrainian sovereignty over ethnic Russians and Russian speakers that want to be part of Russia, which is all kind of nonsense. So this is why the diplomacy should have started earlier. It doesn't matter what your borders are in 1991. You've had a civil war going on since 2014. Tens of thousands of people have died. Diplomacy, it's just too bad that some of the world powers, U.S., France, Germany, couldn't make diplomacy happen, didn't even have talks. Okay, it was all about getting more weapons into the battle space because the critters in Washington, D.C. are seeing another chance. We're going to kill some Russians. I mean, George Bush was caught on a prank call saying, "Your job, buddy boy, is to kill more Russians," when he thinks he's talking to Zelensky. So this is the mentality. There's no diplomacy in D.C. This is the type of never-ending war, Raytheon and Lockheed Incorporated, that's going to end up marching us off into oblivion, okay? Unless we get our heads together and stop the war state as soon as we can. So I'm all about having a strong military and being number one, but right now we're living in delusion. We're living a dream. We got chased out of Afghanistan by the Taliban, for God's sakes. There's people in Afghanistan now starving, and we've cut off their funding. We won't give them their money back. Afghanistan's a whole other issue, which I could do another video on. But history will write us as just a complete villain, and it's just a complete farce. So back to the Ukraine, Phase 3, Odessa. Create the land bridge, Transnistria, where you got 4,000 Russian troops. That will create the rump state of Ukraine. They will be landlocked. They won't have a port. They should have negotiated earlier. Maybe they could have kept Odessa or something. I think I've been saying for a while. Phase 4 is where it's going to get tricky. So you can imagine Russia has all of the east of Ukraine towards the Dnieper, and then they have all the south Ukraine. By this time, all those native weapons have come in. There's 40 billion, some very advanced stuff, U.S. howitzers, French howitzers. At that point, Ukraine should have capabilities to start counteroffensives. They still don't have an Air Force, though. That's going to be a problem because these things could get knocked out by the Russian Air Force. You barely see Russian Air Force today because you don't need them. I mean, they just sit back and shell, do what they want. So you've got the M77A2 howitzers. These are very advanced U.S. howitzers, GPS guided. U.S. intel can give them the exact locations of the Russian forces, and they can shoot and hit. It's going to be, if Russia doesn't take those out quickly, there could be successful Ukrainian counteroffensives. So because of that danger exists, Phase 4 is probably going to see Russia continue westwards. It can't leave Kharkiv there. It can't leave Kiev in place. So if the Ukrainians start any kind of successful counteroffense, you could see Putin mobilize completely, actually declare war, full mobilization, bring in another 300,000 troops, start the carpet bombing of Ukrainian cities, Ukraine places, Kiev, places like this, and then it'll be a battle. I mean, I don't see this war ending at the Dnieper. I see Russia getting there, getting Odessa, getting to Transnistria, getting most of the full, larger Russian ethnic minorities under his fold, and then he'll be open to negotiations. But I don't think the Ukrainians will take it. 50,000 dead now, 60,000 missing. That probably number is going to double or triple by this time next year. Could get worse. A lot of times when lines get overrun, things move really fast. So you go from slow to fast. As the old saying goes, sometimes nothing happens for a decade, and then a decade happens in a week. So that's where we are, Phase 3, Phase 4. Let's hope peace prevails. Let's hope we get some common sense. We don't want this escalating outside Ukraine. We're in big, big danger of that happening. We may see NATO jump in this thing once they realize it's over and Ukraine's lost. NATO may jump in. That's all I wanted to cover. Kissinger, I'm not a fan, but he did say Ukraine needs to start negotiations now to cede territory. And that's cede territory to people that want to be Russians. What's the problem? So that's the situation. It's the same situation as Kosovo. We support Kosovo and think they should be an independent country because they want to be an independent country. But over here we don't. We pick and choose, and because we're hypocrites in the West. So some very interesting things around the economic situation. The ruble's all-time high. Oil money is piling into Russia so fast they don't know what to do with it. Sanctions are going to hurt Russia over the long term. Their automotive industry is going to be down. Lots of different industries will be very, very difficult to readjust. But with all that cash coming in, they may be able to do it. The whole economic side of this, how this comes out and what's going to happen in the West as we near winter. Kissinger says we have 2 months left. That's because as you get colder temperatures in September and October, Europeans are going to be screaming their heads off about the energy prices. So that's where we are, guys, today. I'll leave it there, and we'll check in with you next video. Till then, have a good weekend, and we'll talk to you later. Take care.